Hello and welcome back to Alice Talks Football and welcome back to another live Manchester United news and transfer news update show on the channel, but mostly a takeover news with lots of positive news indicating that the Glazers are willing to sell United. Journalists coming out today, and pretty reliable journalists are coming out saying the Glazers are ready to leave Manchester United, the Glazers are ready to sell, but also news of a massive Qatar bid coming in, a big bid from Qatar, which is expected to be launched Wednesday evening. So lots and lots to talk about. There's some Bellingham transfer news. There's some Mitoma of Brighton transfer news. There's a bit of news on Harry Kane. We've also got news on the takeover, Qatar, general news, Marcus Rashford being injured. What might that mean? Etc, etc, etc. So please do, first of all, smash that like button. And of course, subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football if you're new. We're going to do a game halfway through the live stream. Kind of doing a season predictor and putting stuff through the season predictor for you. But before we get into that, I have to say I want to discuss the Rashford news, and then we're going to do the Qatar news. Reportedly, the Qatar bid's going to be, I think, 5.7 billion is the rumour. That has not been confirmed by a reliable source, so do not hold me to that, but I will dive into that in just a second as well. I hope Rashford's injury isn't serious, says Caitlin, and me too. Well, I'm going to talk about Rashford's injury quickly, and then I'm going to talk about the takeover news, because I think we can get over Rashford's injury in like 3 seconds. So, it was said, if we do this, it was said, breaking, Marcus Rashford will not be part of the England squad for the Euro Championship qualifying campaign later this week, as Manchester United has had to pull out through injury. As the Manchester United striker has had to pull out through injury. Rashford suffered a knock versus Fulham and will miss the England games. Now, as Century Devils tweeted, star player forced to miss international call-up due to injury at hugely important time for the club. Say to a certain manager. I've generally, and I'm going to say this now, never been more happy of Marcus Rashford picking up an injury before the international break and the international break coming. Because lately, Manchester United have started to fall off a cliff. And it's not something I'm concerned about. I don't think it's to do with Ten Hag. I think it's to do with exhaustion. You know, no players have had to play more minutes than Man United players since the World Cup. They're absolutely knackered. And I think the international break has come at a perfect time. And the fact that, you know, the likes of Marcus Rashford will be getting a break in the international break is brilliant, because I think Marcus Rashford has dropped off. I think he's picked up a slight knock just before that Newcastle Cup final. And, you know, he's not looked 100% since. I know he's been getting goals, but he's not looked 100% since. Now, I think Rashford, we'll find out more about Rashford's injury soon. I think that it's a very minor injury that Rashford's picked up versus Fulham. And I think any other time of the year, he'd have probably gone on an international break with this injury and been eager to help. But I do think in this current situation, I think that maybe Rashford's got a slight knock, and Ten Hag said to him, you really need to go on to international break. It's an important point in the season. You need a rest. This is 2 weeks off. There's no point making that not worse when you can fully recover. And I do think this has got kind of Fergie all over it. Kind of got that, okay, you've got a bit of a knock. Like, you should probably miss the international break. La-di-la-di-la. All over it, because it's important time of the season. So I'm not concerned with Rashford's injury, but you never know. I might have reason to be concerned. You know, obviously Garnacho and Eriksen are also injured at the moment, but they're both expected back after the international break, which is very good for Manchester United. So, you know, although we've had a bit of an injury crisis, Martial, Eriksen, Garnacho are expected to be able to play after the international break, and maybe Rashford will come back more refreshed as well. Maybe, you know, at least there'll be Fred and Eriksen and Sabitzer as options. We don't have to rely on McTominay because Casemiro will be suspended. And I think in general, a lot of Manchester United players are going to come back more refreshed after the international break, which I think is ideal, because, as I've said, I think Manchester United have kind of fallen off a cliff recently as well. Glad Rashford's injured, needs to screw a few games. Yeah, I think Rashford needs a rest. And Tottenham do want £100 million for Kane. I think United could get Kane for 80 million if they do good negotiations, if Kane pushes the move as well. My thing just glitched, so let me know if the stream's going all right. My computer just glitched a second there as well. Someone said, but do you actually think he's injured? He was fouled several times and being sandwiched in the Fulham goal. I do think that he's probably got a slight knock, but it's one of those that he would normally ignore. And I think because of the international break, man, he's probably been warned not to go, if I'm being honest as well. That's what my thoughts is. But maybe it's just one of those where Rashford's got not really an injury, but they've said, look, Rashford, we need you. Don't go on the international break. Say it under Jim Ratcliffe and Sheikh Yassim Tani, pushing towards the 6 billion bank. We're going to get into that in just a second. I read out that comment anyway, and Southgate doesn't play Rashford anyway. I mean, Southgate would have probably called up Rashford and played an out-of-form Sterling over him. Do you know what I mean? I don't think Sterling got called up, but I think he will be now. And Rashford should resign until Southgate's gone. I tell you what, I still think to this day it is absolutely criminal that we need a goal against France, and he's not bringing on Marcus Rashford till we've got 5 minutes to go, who'd been arguably England's best attacking player at the Euros, up there with Sancho. But enough of Rashford, enough of the Rashford talk. I do want to dive into the takeover news. I do want to dive into Qatar news. And I do want to dive into transfer news. And then I want to do this Premier League calculator thing as well. I'm just having a bit of water, sorry about that, which I think will be really interesting. So, we're going to the news where the sources are questionable, and then we'll get into the news where the sources are good as well. So, I'm not too familiar with this source. I don't think it is particularly reliable. I think it's one of those ITK accounts, and they obviously tweet a lot of things about Qatar to United, and there being a big announcement, etc., etc. Now, I think that is all clickbait. However, they did say something really interesting, and it was said here that Sheikh Yassim is having a meeting right now in Doha regarding the potential takeover of United. Now, that is probably true because Qatar are preparing their second bid for United, which is meant to be a mad heavy bid. So I do believe that this news coming out is to be true. Do you think we are the favourites for the Europa League? I do. I think now Barcelona and Arsenal out, I think that United are the favourites 100%. And I think Sevilla will give us a difficult game, but beating the other La Liga teams, Juventus could be difficult, and probably Roma in the final. I'm actually, you know what? I'd rather play Juventus than Sporting Lisbon. I think Sporting Lisbon are probably one of the favourites as well. They'll be dangerous, but I think regarding the Europa League, United are still comfortably the favourites to win as well. Saka and Rashford are England's most dangerous attackers. Saka, Rashford, Kane. What a front three that is as well. Martinez's girlfriend video was leaked on Pornhub. I did not know that. Interesting fact of the day there. And last international break till end of the season. Football will get good when international break over. And you know what? I'm going to say this, and I want to dive into the transfer news. And I apologise if I'm going off topic a little bit here. Not transfer news, takeover news. But I hate the international break. You know what? I didn't even like the fact that we had, even though I liked the World Cup, I didn't like the fact that the World Cup was in winter this year. Because when the season starts, I don't like it to be interrupted. I like the season to flow. Oh, why am I yawning? So even with the World Cup, I was like, I fucking hate international break. I hate international break. I hate international football interrupting the season. We get 3 Premier League games international break. We get 4 Premier League games international break. I absolutely hate it. I think that we play way too many games. I think they try and fit way too many international breaks in. However, saying that, I've never been so glad that we've got an international break. I don't think I've ever won an international break, but now I do. I think United need that 2 weeks off to kind of rest, recuperate, come back stronger. I think we've played so many games in such a short period that my head is like, come on, let's dive off this, let's rest. You know what I mean? Like, I think the international break is coming at a good time as well. Continuing on as well, I think United and Roma are favourites. They're the favourites to reach the final, and Sevilla could be sacking their manager ahead of the Sevilla game, which is true as well. And I see Richard Keys, the former cricket player who was fired from Sky Sports, is having a go at Bruno for not being sent off for the... Do you know what? I want to talk about this. I need to get into the takeover news, but I want to talk about this. I see people comparing Mitrovic shoving the ref to Bruno tapping the linesman. There was a strong difference in aggression. Bruno shouldn't have touched the linesman, but it was just a gentle touch. There was no aggression, there was no malice, there was no anger in it. Mitrovic got right in the referee's face, was aggressive with him and pushed him. If you have eyes and you watch the Bruno foul against Liverpool and the assistant referee and the Mitrovic foul, you can see that Mitrovic generally pushes and aggressively shoves the referee while Bruno Fernandes is touching the assistant. Yet, we hear stories that certain people want Bruno to get a 6-month suspension from football for touching an assistant referee. And that apparently it's outrageous that Mitrovic has got a red and Bruno didn't. If you watch Mitrovic's foul and you watch Bruno's foul side by side, Bruno at most is a yellow because he shouldn't do that, but there was no aggression and malice in what Bruno did. Mitrovic aggressively lost his head and pushed the referee. Mitrovic is a straight red. Bruno isn't. I don't get these Liverpool fans who are coming up and saying, oh, Man United cheated, VAR cheated, they should have been sent off. Watch Bruno's and watch Mitrovic. It's clearly one is a red and one is a yellow, and it is Mitrovic's that is a red. And I don't get the people that don't see that. I don't get how people are crying for Bruno to have gotten a red card for pushing the assistant referee. I see so many people online say Bruno should be suspended. Bruno this, Bruno that. You're just jealous. You're just jealous. I mean, the agenda against Manchester United, Casemiro is missing 4 games because he slipped on the ball that he touched first and his stud touched the player's leg, and Casemiro is missing 4 games. They now want Bruno to miss 3 games for touching an assistant referee. But yet they'll be calling Barstool Sports, whatever that rubbish page is on Twitter, will be saying that Bruno should be sent off, but then say Mitrovic shouldn't. It's a clear United agenda as well. They're pushing for Mitrovic to get a 10-match ban. I wouldn't go as far as 10-match ban. However, what Mitrovic did was not acceptable. But I don't get how there were seriously people pushing for Bruno to get a 6-month. There were generally people trying to get Bruno Fernandes banned from football for 6 months because he touched the linesman. I thought it was an absolute joke as well. And it's Fulham's not for losing the head. As Steve said, Fulham, Willian handballed it, blatant handball for Willian. Mitrovic thinks you can shout at the referee, push him, and not expect consequences. You know, there's one thing shouting at the referee and get him in his face, which is not nice, but actually pushing the referee and being aggressive with the referee. Bruno kind of touches the linesman and doesn't really push him or doesn't really hit him with some aggression. Mitrovic full on pushes the referee. And I keep seeing people on social media actually complaining that Bruno didn't get a 5-month suspension for football. The game has gone soft. Casemiro is out for 4 games because he slipped and he won the ball first and then he slipped and touched someone's leg. That's, you know, these footballers are going to, all of a sudden, we're going to have rules where you can't breathe and you get a red card. It's absolute mad as well. These haters were saying nothing when Man United was in the mud. Exactly. These people just want United gone. They just have a United agenda. And when United player does something, they will want a red card. I tell you what, had it been the other way round and a Southampton player had got sent off against a Man United player for winning the ball and studying the player, had Casemiro been a Southampton player and had Casemiro been a Southampton player fouling a Man United player, all the rivals would be saying that, you know, that Manchester United, the Southampton player shouldn't be sent off. But Casemiro will do the same sort of foul, and like Casemiro should be sent off. There's this weird double standards in the media that, you know, if it happens to United, if something goes United's way with Manchester United, like nothing has seemed to gone United's way this season. I feel like we barely get any decisions this season. And when we do, apparently with Manchester United, despite Casemiro having 2 red cards, despite this, despite that, they're saying, oh, Manchester United, la. I'm thinking, watch. Mitrovic is a blatant red. Bruno isn't. Look at, you know, like Casemiro is getting reds for nothing and they want Bruno to get red. And I think it's just soft. And it was really bothering me because I don't know if they're just doing it because they've got a United agenda, but so many people were trying to get Bruno in more trouble, saying, oh, why they need to go back to that Bruno foul for sending Mitrovic off. Anyone with eyes knows there was a complete difference in aggression. It's just absolute madness. Absolute madness as well. People just want to complain. Double standards is what it sounds like. Comparisons are a joke. People just do. You know, if Man United should get a clear, blatant penalty, people will just say it's not a penalty. But if it happened against United and it's a clear, blatant penalty and it's not given to the rivals, people will say Manchester United. You know, we don't get anything our way. Whatever we do, someone will complain as well. And literally, Luke Shaw and Marcus Rashford are not playing international football. They need resting. Well, I know 100% Rashford's resting. I think Luke Shaw did go as well. And Mitrovic made it worse as well. And Karma returned the favour. You know what? The amount of games we've lost this season. Well, I say that. The amount of games this season where United have just been so unlucky. We've had blatant penalties taken away from us. We've potentially missed sitters. And, you know, we've had howling VAR decisions like Casemiro's red card and then us getting fouled and rivals should get a red card and they don't. The amount of opportunities that United have, you know, that I can't talk. I'm tired. I can't. I don't know what's going on with me. I forgot what I was talking about. That basically, United have been so unlucky with VAR. United have been so unlucky with the referees. Man United have been so unlucky with VAR recently. They've been giving us nothing. But as soon as VAR give us something, all of a sudden we're Manchester United again. It does my head in as well. If rivals are crying now, imagine when we get new owners. Oh my God, exactly. You know what? The rivals can cry all they want, because if United get Qatar in with Ten Hag, it's flicking over. Look what oil money has done to Manchester City and PSG. Man City and PSG. Sorry, I'm just going to grab my Coke here. Try and keep me awake with the caffeine. But Manchester City and PSG were nothing before oil money. Well, there was something, but they were small. Then they look at Man United. I'm just going to say this, but this is just a common thing to say. But look at where Man United are. Look at the size of them, despite 17 years of the Glazers. The Glazers have left us to rot for 17 years, invested nothing into the club. In the last 17 years, our owners have not given a crap about this club, have been running this club in first gear with the door unlocked of the car. Absolute mess. In the last 17 years, they've taken $1 billion out of the club and not invested into the club. Despite that, yes, we're not where we need to be, but United is still a top club, despite having owners that are trying to basically kill this club, that are taking $1 billion out of the club and are not running the club properly. You look at what oil money has done to Manchester City. You look at what oil money has done to PSG. They've gone from almost nothing clubs to these superpowers, to the two best teams in the world, where they've got Haaland and Mbappe at either team, which are the two new, I guess, Messi and Ronaldo's. Manchester City were a nothing club and PSG were a nothing club 15 years ago. Look at them now. Manchester United is a big club. Manchester United is something club. Manchester United is still a massive club, despite having owners for 17 years that have neglected the club. Imagine what proper owners could do to United with proper oil money. Imagine, Manchester City, PSG have become massive clubs because of oil money. But imagine what oil money could do to a club that's already massive, a club that already generates so much money. Rivals would be scared. United would be ridiculously strong. And that is why so many people are terrified of United getting Qatar. There are so many Premier League teams that don't want United to get Qatar because they know it's over. United generate so much money themselves. With oil money, you can't stop that. Ten Hag is doing well. Ten Hag is a fantastic manager. Anyone knows you give Ten Hag the backing he needs and United will get to the top. Oil money, Manchester United, that is a big, big recipe. And that's what the Glazers are scared of. Not the Glazers, that's what rivals are scared of as well. Apparently, the Glazers are pushing for $7 billion. This is what I'll be saying. Basically, the deadline is Wednesday night. The deadline for the last bid is 10 p.m. Wednesday night. Qatar are putting in their second bid Wednesday night. Guess what the Glazers are leaking? That they want $7 billion now. Because basically, we know the Glazers' price tag was $6 billion, and they'll probably accept anything at $5.5 billion and above. But now they know Qatar are preparing the second bid. They're going to leak stories that they want $6 billion. They want $6 billion this, they want $6 billion that. Because that is what the Glazers do. They leak stories, they lie, etc., etc., etc. The Glazers will leak stories to the media. It's all a negotiation game. This week, there's going to be thousands of stories leaked. There's going to be stories that the Glazers want this much. The Glazers want to stay. The Glazers don't want to do this. The Glazers don't want to do that. Because the Glazers know Qatar and other investors are about to put in their second bid for United. And the Glazers want to make sure that they're getting as much money as possible. So they're playing games to make sure Qatar up their bid, to make sure this team ups their bid and that team ups their bid. The Glazers will be doing their negotiation tactics left, right and centre. And Qatar are smart businessmen. I think they're aware of what the Glazers are doing. And Qatar said after their meeting with the Glazer family last week, they're confident the Glazers will do the full sale despite rumours. The belief is from those in the club, those in Qatar. Qatar have told the people around them, these Glazers, they're ready to do the full sale. This minority stake is them just effing about to try and get more money out of us. Qatar believe the Glazers are serious about the full sale. And that's what we're going to dive into in just a second as well. You look shattered, you should get some kip. I don't know what kip is, but I absolutely am shattered. And parasites, get out of our club, I agree. And Qatari money won't save the club long term. I mean, it probably will save the club more than the Glazers would. Imagine United, 17 years and $1 billion's been taken out of the club. Imagine where we could be in 17 years of $1 billion invested into the club. We could be at the very top. We could be winning the Premier League. We could be winning the Champions League, which we've not won in a while. We've got a good manager now. Now we just need to get those owners in as well. It was said that Sheikh Yassim will make his second bid for Manchester United Wednesday evening. I'm going to get into the other story on Sheikh Yassim. I'm going to quickly get over the new owner news, get into that now because this is quite important. This is quite interesting. It was also said new Sheikh Yassim's advisors are working on putting together a new bid for United, which is expected to be submitted by close of by close of business on Wednesday, there's growing confidence amongst bidders that the Glazers are willing to sell the club. There's growing confidence amongst bidders that Glazers are willing to sell the club. That is the big news coming in from Sky. That is the big news. We've got Sheikh Yassim working on the deal. Sheikh Yassim doing this. Sheikh Yassim doing that. We know that the deadline for the second bids is Wednesday. We know that all the people involved in the Manchester United takeover are preparing what they need for the second bids, which is why I wouldn't be surprised if a few stories come out that is PR spin after PR spin saying that, negotiation tactics, saying that the Glazers want 7 billion, the Glazers want 8 billion because they know Qatar are preparing the second bid. But the news that's coming out and being reported by Sky Sports is there's growing confidence among bidders that the Glazers are willing to sell. Qatar, when they had that 10-hour deliberation with Manchester United last week, were reportedly told the Glazers are looking to do the full sale, but are still open to a minority stake. The Rain Group has warned the Glazers to do the full sale because if they do a minority stake, the fans are going to be at unrest. So we know that Sheikh Yassim is preparing this massive second bid for United. We know that all of a sudden the Glazers are looking to sell, which means likely that Manchester United could have Qatar as their next owners. And if you think of where we've been in the last 17 years with the Glazers at the helm, imagine where we'll be in 17 years' time if we have owners like Qatar with infinite money, with more money than the Glazers, but more importantly than money, they care about the club. They want this club to succeed at all levels. United could be going very, very high. Just going to take another sip of water. Guys, please do smash that like button and, of course, subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football if you're new. If you do want to stay up to date with all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, updates and more, Alice Talks Football is the place to be. The Prem is our biggest enemy. How can they let us with Glazers debt? Do you know what's mad? It's the way the Glazers brought Man United, I'm pretty sure, is technically not allowed now. The Glazers should, I'll be honest, had Man United been a Chelsea or London club, which is more protected by the government because the government cares a lot about London and the money coming to London, but had Man United been a London club, I generally believe that the Glazers wouldn't have been allowed to buy them. The Glazers borrowed money from the banks. Man United had no debt before the Glazers, and the money the Glazers borrowed from the bank, they indebted Manchester United with. We all of a sudden, the Glazers borrow this money from these banks and they put this debt on United. Then with the interest rates, they take it out. Then with the dividends, they take themselves out money and profit. What the Glazers have done shouldn't be allowed in football. So imagine getting rid of the Glazers. That's something to celebrate. But imagine you get rid of the Glazers and you replace them, not only with any old owners that could just be Glazers 2.0 or average owners, but you're potentially replacing the Glazers with owners that want to spend a shit ton of money at United, that want to invest heavily at Manchester United. It's absolute madness as well. Leveraged buyouts banned now. Literally, how the Glazers bought Manchester United is illegal now or banned now. You cannot buy a club on a leveraged buyout. And I think because they looked at the Glazers, they looked at what the Glazers have done with United, absolutely run us dry. Daniel says, Alice's army, please subscribe to Alice Talks Football and smash that subscribe button exactly as well. And Jay's Glazers should just F off, tired of the leeches 100%. And it looks like the Glazers are ready to F off according to news, but you have to wait and see. And Paul says he is praying for Qatar. I mean, I really want Qatar. Most importantly, I want the Glazers out. If we get Jim Ratcliffe, I think that Qatar would be better, but at least I'd rather have Jim Ratcliffe than the Glazers. The most important thing is that the Glazers go, and the second most important thing is that whoever replaces the Glazers is going to be very good. Jim Ratcliffe will be better than the Glazers, but will he be very good with the money he has? Whereas Qatar, they look like they could be very good. Guys, we're on 118 likes, so please do smash that like button if you have not already. And, of course, subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football if you're new. I go live every single evening on the channel, so if you do want to stay up to date with all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, updates and more, make sure you subscribe to Alice Talks Football to stay up to date with all of that news. We've still got a few more stories I want to get into, some interesting bits and pieces. I'm just going over the takeover news as well. But the big bit of story that I want to get into, the interesting story, and I think this is particularly relevant, and I'm going to show you this now, is obviously the Glazers want to sell. There's growing confidence among bidders that the Glazers will sell. And I think this is particularly important, and this is what we have on the other screen, because all of a sudden, Qatar had a meeting with the Glazers where Qatar probably, or the Rain Group who represent the Glazers, and they probably said, like, what's the chance of a full sale or partial stake? And apparently the Rain Group is saying it's the full sale. Apparently, the Rain Group is saying it's the full sale. The Glazers are ready to sell. The Glazers know they can't stay. The Glazers are ready to walk away. Apparently, it is the full sale. There's this growing confidence in the media that the Glazers will sell, that it will be the full sale, that the Glazers will walk away, that the Glazers will go. Obviously, we don't know this for sure until you get your Romano, your David Ornstein confirmation. But the feeling in there, the rumours going around is that the Glazers will sell, which I think is absolutely massive as well. We're less than 200 subscribers away from 60k, so do subscribe if you're new people. And of course, smash that like button as well. I've got lots of other stories to talk about. I've got lots of other bits and pieces to talk about. So make sure you subscribe for that, share the video, etc., etc., etc. But Qatar putting the second bid in, I think, is massive. Qatar about to put that second bid in. The Glazers, that's likely to be the highest bid. I think that is absolutely massive that Qatar are about to put a second bid in. And hopefully, you know, the Glazers upset. But, you know, the price tag the Glazers want keeps changing. Qatar are ready to go near that 6 billion price tag. Hopefully the Glazers will interact that and have set the price tag under 6 billion. But the Glazers, they're greedy. They know a lot of people want United. They know the value of United being in the Premier League, the biggest league in the world, and being the biggest team in the biggest league in the world. It has its value. So I think that is the one area to worry out for. But the reports are that Qatar are bidding around 5.5 billion as well. What do you think Newcastle see in McTominay that we don't? I would drive him to Newcastle myself. I don't know, height, passion. McTominay does give off more Newcastle player vibes, but I don't think if Newcastle want to achieve what they want to achieve, I don't think McTominay is good enough. However, if Newcastle are going to be giving us 25 million for Scott McTominay, I ain't going to say no. You can have our Deadwood. Knowing us, Scott McTominay will probably leave United and look really good as a DM, but when he's at United, he looks shocking as well. We get close to 5.7 million deal to 6 billion. Bank spoke to Abraham. I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that, but the news coming in is that basically United are getting closer and closer and closer and closer. I'm trying to find the tweet I was trying to get up, so I do apologise. But the news coming in is that United are getting closer and closer and closer and closer to obviously achieving a full sale. I was looking for a tweet and I can't find it. This is what I tweeted earlier, by the way. I said Ten Hag is doing well with the amount of injuries and games he has had. The squad is knackered. Imagine what Ten Hag could do if Man United sign his players. But I wanted to find a tweet to share with you guys, and I really can't find it. So I do apologise for that. I'm just seeing if I can find it. Obviously, that was the tweet I was showing you, but I can't seem to find it now. We'll just get this one up on the screen. Sheikh Massim will make a second bid for Manchester United on Wednesday. His advisors are now working on putting together a new plan, which is expected to be submitted close to the business on Wednesday. So that is Sheikh Yassim's plan as well. Do not get rid of Wan-Bissaka. I agree. I want to talk about this and I want to get into some other news. There's a lot of people saying, you know, Ten Hag's looking at right back. Julian Timbers being scouted, which is technically a centre back, but he can play right back. Frimpong's been scouted. You know, Wan-Bissaka was set to go. I generally think that Dalot started this season fantastically. Dalot started this season 10 times better than Wan-Bissaka. But in recent times, I think Wan-Bissaka has looked absolutely excellent recently. I think that it would be unfair to sell Wan-Bissaka. However, Ten Hag's got high standards. Will Wan-Bissaka ever reach Ten Hag's high standards or the way he wants to play? I think if we sell Wan-Bissaka, at least let's sell him for some good value. I think his good season this season will help increase his value. But I think it's a risk to sell Wan-Bissaka because what Wan-Bissaka offers is something that no real fullback really else can offer. If you're playing a team with a tricky right winger and you need someone to defend them one by one, Wan-Bissaka's your guy. Look at Saint-Maximin in the cup final. I think had Dalot played 90 minutes and we not utilised Wan-Bissaka, Saint-Maximin would have cooked Dalot and probably got 2 goals and got Newcastle back in the game. Because Saint-Maximin is arguably one of the best wingers one-on-one, whereas Wan-Bissaka is one of the best defenders one-on-one. And I think that generally Wan-Bissaka saved us there in that cup final. And I think Wan-Bissaka's importance is brilliant. And I think, you know, we have to sell Wan-Bissaka for 30 mil above if we do want him. How many signings do you think Man United will complete if Qatar buys them? I think we'll buy a big striker. I think we'll buy a big midfielder. I think we'll buy a big position in defence. And then I think we'll probably maybe buy another defender and potentially another midfielder. So I think 3 maybe major signings and 2 small signings is what I'd expect of Qatar's owner. If United Glazers stay as owner, then I expect maybe 1 big signing and 2 smaller signings and not much to be spent. But the feeling is that, again, as I've said, Qatar will probably be the next owners of United, is what the news is saying, with them ready to put their second bid in, with it going all well for Qatar and Qatar's business. Qatar ready to submit the second bid, and that United are the favourites. And Qatar obviously had a meeting with United and got the impression that Manchester United would be open to selling. So it does seem to go well for them. Again, I do apologise if I'm talking, I'm not making sense. I'm trying to keep myself awake. This sometimes happens on a Monday because I live off about 4 hours sleep on a Monday. I'm always like live, and then my brain just can't function sometimes when I'm live. So I do apologise if it sounds like I'm dozing to sleep or anything. I'm trying to nod my head. I'm trying to stay awake. My brain just does not like this time of the year. Not this time of the year. Mondays. I'm just knackered on Mondays. I think that's the big problem. Continue on as well. I've got a serious question. Who would win a 100-metre sprint against Lord Maguire? We want Vercourse or a random 70-year-old. I mean, Maguire's pace. I was watching the game yesterday versus Fulham, and we had to play so deep. And I think a reason of that is because we don't have Casemiro to protect the defence, and of course Ten Hag wants to be more defensive in defence. If that makes sense. However, I just thought how deep we were playing was also to accommodate Maguire's lack of pace, and because we were playing so deep, and because we don't have midfielders with that extra quality on the ball. The midfielders have to drop deep to get the ball, and then they can't play out from the back, and then there's this big space between the midfield and the attack. But the only way the attack was really getting the ball, I felt, was when Lisandro Martinez was passing the ball, because I have to say Lisandro Martinez was making some fantastic passes, and Lisandro Martinez was absolutely fantastic. And you could almost argue that Lisandro Martinez was Manchester United's best player on the ball. I think every good pass seemed to come from Lisandro Martinez, because I don't think our midfield 100% knows how to pass as well. To keep De Gea, yes or no? I mean, I'd keep De Gea for another season or so, but I do think we need a goalkeeper that's good with their feet to kind of fit Ten Hag's system as well. And what would you do? What happened to Deleuze if we got Frimpong? I still think that, despite Deleuze's recent drop-off in form, he seems to be Ten Hag's number one first choice. Deleuze still seems to be Ten Hag's number one right-back choice. Deleuze Ten Hag still very much wants to give him a contract. I don't really know, because I can't tell you if we signed a right-back, whether it be Deleuze or Wan-Bissaka going, because I think Wan-Bissaka's been better recently. Wan-Bissaka's been better since the World Cup. But I do think that before the World Cup, Deleuze was clear of Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka only played 4 more minutes of football. Wan-Bissaka only played 4 minutes of football before the World Cup. So although I think that Wan-Bissaka's been class, I don't know, because I think we are looking at Frimpong, but we've got 2 decent right backs. But both of these right backs are decent, but we could definitely be better in that area. And it was said you create good depth by buying a player that's going to be better than your current right backs, and you put your current right backs on the bench to fight for their spot as well. Kay says, top sat channel, thank you very much for the chat there as well. And St. Maximan is still in Wan-Bissaka's pocket. Exactly. Continuing on as well. Check the mirror for the latest on Kane. I will get onto the latest on Harry Kane in just a second, but I've got a few bits and pieces that I do want to talk about. I'm just going to make sure there's no breaking news before I get into the bits and pieces here. Making sure nothing's coming out. Anything of interest. Oh, I'm so tired. Why am I so tired? I think Ten Hag deliberately made Rashford pull out on injury. I have a feeling that Rashford ain't that injured after all. I'm trying to see if any news has come out quickly. Doesn't look like it. So what I want to do is I want to just stop that for a second. I'm going to share my screen with you again, and we're going to do Premier League predictor for the end of the season. We're going to predict how the end of the season is going to finish based off the current results and studies. So we're going to obviously go back because United haven't played game week 7. Oh, we have, but we got to fill. So basically, we're going to be filling these in because Bournemouth haven't played Brighton. Leeds, Forest, I think will be 1-1. Leicester versus Villa, I think will be 2-1 Villa. West Ham, 0, Newcastle 2. So I'm just going to quickly fill in these early ones here. Week 8 is Chelsea, Liverpool. I'm going to say 2-2, I'm going to say 2-2. And they drop some points there. So now we're now going to go into week 25, yeah. So Newcastle, Brighton, that's a tough game in the race for top 4. You know what? I'm going to say 1-0 Brighton. I'm going to say Brighton win this 1-0. And Man United, Brentford, we don't have Casemiro, so I'm going to say 1-1 despite being at home. I don't trust the United players, so I think Brentford, we could be in trouble. Brighton, United, I'm going to go, you know what? I'll probably be honest, I think Brighton are going to do double over us and win 2-1. That's what I'm slightly worried about. I think Manchester City will probably pipe West Ham 4-1, and that is the end of the following week. Man City, Liverpool, I'm still going 2-0 Man City that are at home. I think Bournemouth will lose 0-2 to Fulham. I think Brighton will probably win 3-2 versus Brentford. I think Palace will win 1-1 at Leicester. Well, that's not a win, that's draw. I think Arsenal will probably score 4 passes Leeds because they're absolutely unstoppable and unbelievable at the moment. I think Forest will draw 1-1 with Wolves. I think Chelsea will draw 1-1 with Villa. I think Manchester United will win 2-3-0. We'll probably get Casemiro back against West Ham. I think that Man United will win 2-1 versus Newcastle. And I think that Tottenham, Everton will be 0-1. And I think that will be a very boring game. I'm just kind of doing a prediction of where I think the season will finish. So when I do all of these, we're going to see the finished Premier League table when we do all of these as well. United, Everton, I think is 2-0. United, Aston Villa, Forest, I think is 2-0. Brentford, Newcastle, I think is probably 1-1. Fulham, I think could win 3-1 there. Leicester, I think will be 0. And I actually fancy Bournemouth to do something versus Leicester. Tottenham will be 3, and I think Brighton will be 4, and then high-scoring game. Wolverhampton Wanderers could be 1, Chelsea could be 1, Leeds can be 2, and Palace can be 2, and Southampton can be literally 0 because they're rubbish, and Man City will show us how to beat Southampton 5, and then Liverpool, I think Liverpool-Arsenal, you know what? I'm saying 2-1 Liverpool. That's going to be Arsenal's first massive loss of the season. I'm generally believing that Liverpool are going to do something against Arsenal. I say Arsenal's first loss of the season, not Arsenal's first loss of the season, but I don't know why my brain's firing. Not Arsenal's first loss of the season. I think I was going to say something around first loss of the season, but it wasn't Arsenal's first loss of the season. I can't remember what I was going to say. My brain is just absolutely melted today. I'm just knackered. Again, continuing on. I think that Villa will lose 2-1 to Newcastle. I think Chelsea will lose. I think Chelsea will draw 1-1 to Brighton. I think Everton will lose 1-0 to Fulham. I think Southampton will draw. No, I think Southampton will lose and Palace will get a win there. I think Tottenham will probably beat Bournemouth 3-0, but you never know. You just don't know with Tottenham. I think Antonio Conte is being sacked, but as I said, you never know. Wolves will probably lose 3-1 to Brentford. Forest will probably lose 3-0. I generally think we're going to beat Forest 2-0 again. I think that West Ham versus Arsenal, I think West Ham know that they're probably in trouble there. I think Manchester City versus Leicester, you're looking at 2-0 Manchester City. And of course, Leeds versus Liverpool, you're looking at 2-1 there. I want to hurry up and get this done because we're on week 32 and I've got 6 more game weeks to get through. So I do apologise if this is starting to be slow as well. My top 1 is Arsenal, City, United, Newcastle, Tottenham. Well, I can't wait to see how obviously this graph turns out after I put all the data in that I need as well. Arsenal will win that 4-0 because Southampton are rubbish. Fulham will win this 2-0. Bournemouth will lose this 2-1. Palace will win this probably 2-1 just because Everton are a bit shit. Brentford will probably win this 3-1. Not Liverpool, Nottingham Forest. You know what? I'm saying 1-1. Nottingham 6 points of Liverpool. Leicester City, I think, will be 0 to Wolves. I think Wolves will get a nice win over Leicester City. I think that United will beat Chelsea 1-0. And I think Spurs will beat Newcastle. And actually, you know what? Spurs Newcastle will be 1-1. And Brighton will be 2. Manchester City 3. I think Brighton will give Manchester City a difficult game, especially with Brighton being at home, but I think Man City still get the win. Crystal Palace, Wolves again, 2-1 Palace, 2-1 Villa, basically 0. I think this will be 0-0. I think this will be a crap game. Also, we're making sense because I'm absolutely knackered, so I don't know if I am making sense or not. It's just, I don't know why. Like, this always happens on a Monday when I go live. I almost just get absolutely tired. Daniel says he thinks Everton will survive, and our goal difference is shocking thanks to Liverpool. We need to build up goal difference since the 7-0, and I agree. My top 4 is Arsenal, City, United, Newcastle, Tottenham. I hope Arsenal win the league this season to prevent City doing the treble. True. That would be horrible. What are we thinking with Leeds, Leicester? You know what? 3-1 Leeds. Forest will probably lose 4-1 to Brighton. West Ham United will. You know what? Let's do it. West Ham's going to get a 2. Nah, Liverpool going to win 3-2. Chelsea are going to lose 2-1 to Brentford. Man City, I think, are going to beat Arsenal 2-0 here. Everton probably going to be 3-1 down. You know what? Actually, 3-0 down to Newcastle. I think they're going to click third gear. And United Spurs. Now, this United Spurs game, week 33, game week 33, could be a massive, massive game. Spurs have the home advantage, but I'm saying 2-1 Manchester United. And I generally keep saying that home game against Spurs, away game against Spurs is going to be absolutely massive, and it could massively determine whether we get top 4 or not. Crystal Palace West Ham will be 2-2. Bournemouth is going to lose 2-0 to Leeds. Brighton is going to win 1-0 against Wolves. Brentford is going to win 1-0 against Forest. Arsenal is going to draw 2-2 with Chelsea. You know what? I could say Fulham get a result versus Man City, but I don't see it. I see Fulham trying to. Yeah, I just can't see Fulham getting a result versus Manchester City. Man United Villa. I'll be honest. I'm thinking 2-2. I think we bottle this. We will just need to struggle against Villa. Newcastle will probably beat Southampton. Liverpool, I think, will probably beat Spurs. And I think Leicester will probably lose to Arsenal. So We've got basically 3-4 more of these to do, and then we can see the results. I'm sorry that it's taken so long. I just want to see the results. Tottenham are a complete mess right now. Man United are in for Harry Kane. Harry Kane is one of Manchester United's top transfer targets and has been quoted at around 100 million for Harry Kane. That's what's being quoted, around 100 million for Kane. Would you pay 100 million for Kane with his age, with 1 year left on his contract? For me, I think he's a 70 million pound player, but we'll have to wait and see. Arsenal winning the league will end my life. We'll need to evacuate London. You know what? We just don't want Arsenal to win the league. Their fans are getting too gobby on social media. At least when Man City win the league, because they've got no many fans, pretty much no fans, you don't notice them. They don't annoy you. Arsenal fans are everywhere. They're so annoying. Anyway, Bournemouth are going to lose 3-1 to Chelsea. Brighton is going to drop points to Everton somehow. Fulham is going to beat Leicester 2-1. Liverpool is actually going to get a 3-2 win versus Brentford. Man City is going to plaster Leeds 4-0. Newcastle, Arsenal. I think Arsenal will drop points here. Forest will probably win 3-1 versus Southampton. Tottenham Hotspur is going to win 2-0 versus Palace, who sat Vieira, and I don't think Palace looks as good without Vieira. West Ham will give United a difficult game, but United will scrape the 2-1 win. And Wolves Villa will be a draw. 3 more game weeks left until we can see the final Prem table. So I'm thinking Aston Villa 2, Spurs 2. I'm thinking Palace 2, Bournemouth 0. I'm thinking Arsenal 1, Brighton 0. You know what? I'm thinking Arsenal 1-1. They're going to lose it to Brighton. I'm thinking Bournemouth 2-0 versus West Ham. Sorry, Brentford 2-0 versus West Ham. I'm thinking Chelsea is going to beat Forest 1-0 despite Chelsea barely scoring. I think it's going to do nothing versus Manchester City, and that's going to be 5-0 Manchester City, what they do as well. I think Southampton will probably beat Fulham. It's not beat Fulham. Fulham will probably beat Southampton 2-0. I think Leeds might do something versus Newcastle, but I don't totally see it. I think Leicester could do something versus Liverpool, but I think Liverpool will win that one. And I go with 4-2. And I'm actually saying that United, although Wolves gives us a difficult game because Wolves bit part of the bus and stuff, I'm thinking a 2-0 win for United over Wolves. Don't need Kane if they're asking about too much. That's the problem. I like Kane. I think Kane's a fantastic player, but the amount of money they're asking us to pay for Harry Kane is ridiculous, considering how long's left on his contract, his age, and his injury record as well. You're well class, Alice. Appreciate it. And it seems like we have more difficult FA Cup tie with Brighton while Man City gets Sheffield. You know what? We've got the most difficult Europa League path we could have got. Obviously we've got easy in the Carabao Cup, but we've had a very difficult path tie in the Europa League. And the fact that we're still in all 3 cup competitions kind of excuses the fact that the players are knackered. Just taking a quick sip of water as I carry on with this as well. Doing the prediction as well. Arseholes won't throw away the league now. I don't even know who I want to win the league. I don't want Man City or Arsenal to win the league. Now, I think United get a nice 3-0 win versus Bournemouth. I think that Brighton win 2-1 versus Southampton. I think that Fulham win 3-1 versus Crystal Palace. I think Liverpool drop points against Villa. I think Manchester City win 4-1 versus Chelsea. They fuck up massively. I think Newcastle wins 2-1 versus Leicester. I think Nottingham Forest loses about 3-0 to Arsenal, unfortunately. I think Tottenham probably beat Brentford 2-2 with Tottenham, actually. I can see them dropping points to Brentford. I think West Ham to potentially beat Leeds 2-1. And again, the same with Wolves will beat Everton 2-1, which brings us on to the final game week. And then we can predict how the Premier League table could finish this season as well. Osimhen and Ferguson would be amazing. The amount of money we pay for players who doesn't matter to the fans, but they're still galling when the club gets away with inflated prices. What do you mean by that? Can you explain that? The amount of money paid for a player doesn't matter to the fans, but it's galling when clubs get away with inflated prices. Oh, what you're saying is like when we paid 80 million for Maguire and 100 million for Anthony because clubs know they can take advantage of us because we're shitting the Chancellor window. Now, moving on to the last slide of games. Villa is going to win 2-1 in a shot win at Brighton. Palace is going to win 2-0 at Forest. Arsenal is going to win 3-0 at Wolves. Manchester City is going to just beat Brentford in an unlucky loss of Brentford. Chelsea is going to beat Newcastle. Everton is going to beat Bournemouth. And I'm trying to think here. Southampton's just going to lose to Liverpool because Southampton are probably the worst. Leeds is going to lose You know what? Leeds, I'm going to say 2-1. No, actually, no, I'm going to say 3-2 Spurs win. But Spurs might get a new manager. I think West Ham are going to win this game versus Leicester. And I think that United is going to struggle, but we're going to win this game versus Fulham. Which puts me onto the calculation bit. So this is my calculation for the final Prem table, people, as you can see here. This is what my calculations from going through every single match, which I apologise for taking 10 minutes, looks like. So this is the potential updated Premier League if my calculations pull off. And that actually has Brighton in 4th place. So Brighton pipped Newcastle to 4th place by 1 point. So Manchester United finished quite comfortably in 3rd by 10 points. But basically, Tottenham, Liverpool miss out on top 4 to Brighton, and Newcastle get 5th here. So this is my sort of Prem prediction for the season, obviously going through everything. Ferguson looks perfect for United. I do really like Ferguson. We aren't getting Bellingham. He'll go to Real Madrid. I don't think we'll get Bellingham. And Tottenham having a terrible season, yet they're still in that top 4 race. And glad Rashford pulled out of the England squad, me too as well. And rather City win than Arsenal. Alice is blurred. Is it still blurry or are we good? Might just be a bit of lag on your end. So Man City win the league, according to my prediction, because I feel like Arsenal could drop off. However, Man City are in the FA Cup and the Champions League, while Arsenal only have Prem, so I think maybe Arsenal could win it. But I've just predicted, because I think Arsenal have a harder fixture list than to maybe drop some points. However, they've only got the Prem, so maybe they won't drop points. So we got City to win it, Arsenal second, United third, which 79 points is a decent points tally. Brighton picked the top 4 with just beating Newcastle. They got Liverpool, you got Tottenham, so that is your top 7. So Brentford just missed out on Europe. Fulham in the top 10, Villa 10th, Chelsea end up coming 11th still on 52 points. So yeah, basically no one reached, despite them getting better. Crystal Palace end up coming in 45 points and avoiding relegation. Wolves end up coming with 36 points as well. Leeds to stay up. I mean, bloody hell, I've put Leicester at the bottom at 26. You know what? I don't actually think Leicester's going to get relegated, but for some reason, my prediction has put Leicester at the bottom with Southampton and Bournemouth, and Forest, Everton, West Ham, and Leeds narrowly standing up. That's where my predictions landed us. West Ham survive as well. NS Sports says big up Alice, big up people in the chat. Ferguson, Casado, Paulinho. I mean, you know what? There's so many gems at the likes of Brighton, Brentford, Fulham. Paulinho, I'd take. Casado, I'd take. Ferguson, I'd take. Matoma, I'd take. Ivan Toney, I'd take as well. Would love Brighton to get 4th place as well. I was blurred out, but it's okay now. That's good as well. And we're on 200 likes, people. So cheers for smashing the like button as well. But yeah, this is my final Prem predictions when I've gone through every game, which is weird because you don't expect the likes of Leicester at the bottom. Palace ended up doing all right in the end. Even though Palace have fallen, I feel like might struggle now they've sacked the era. I've got Palace on 45. But I think this is also determined by the fixture list. But I wouldn't mind if the Premier League finished this way. Liverpool missing out on top 4 would be nice. Because you know what? Liverpool can celebrate their 7-up trophy. But Liverpool are not winning the trophy this season. If Liverpool go trophyless and do not finish in the top 4, they can celebrate that 7-0 all they want. But United could potentially finish the season in the top 4 with 3 trophies. So you know what? Would I take United finishing in the top 4 with 3 trophies, or would I take United beating Liverpool 7-0? No, of course I take United finishing in the top 4 with 3 trophies of 7-0. So hopefully it ends like that, so then Liverpool fans can absolutely shut up as well. Ruben Neves is a good one. I like Mateus Nunes of Wolves. I mean, let's look at the clubs that could get relegated. If Leicester get relegated, you jump on James Maddison. If Leicester get relegated, you jump on James Maddison. If Southampton get relegated, you jump on Bella Kachap and Lavia. If Bournemouth get relegated, they're all shit. So there's no one I really want for Bournemouth as well. Alice, what site is that? I think it's Premier League Table Calculator. So that's a big ad. Yeah, it's just called Premier League Table Calculator. Looks like that. So it's just an opportunity where you can actually predict how the Premier League table is going to finish as well. Crystal Palace could fall. I do worry about Crystal Palace. We'll have to see how sacking Vieira affects them. But according to my prediction, they should stay up. Because Crystal Palace, basically, Vieira got sacked because he didn't win a certain amount of games. But Crystal Palace had probably the hardest run in 2020, in early 2023. So now Crystal Palace do have quite an easy run. So I think because Palace have an easy run, they will stay up. And I think Palace have the quality to stay up. Look, I look at Palace, I look at West Ham, I look at Wolves. They have the quality to stay up. I think the 3 weakest I think the 3 weakest squads are Bournemouth, Southampton, Leeds. I think Leicester have more quality than Leeds. I think Bournemouth, Southampton, Leeds are the 3 weakest squads, if I'm being all honest with you as well. I wouldn't say James Ward-Prowse. I think he's just a backup. I think he's better than McTominay, but I don't think he's good enough for what we want to be under Ten Hag. Alice, I aim for trophy, simple as that, exactly. Get Billingham from Bournemouth and that's it. I don't think I'd get anyone from Bournemouth. If Bournemouth get relegated, you allow all their players to stay down in the Championship as well. Klopp lifting the 7-Up trophy. You know, it's absolutely mad. These Liverpool fans going on about 7-0. What about 7-0? I'm like, you're going to win nothing this season. You're probably not going to finish in the top 4. And if you don't finish in the top 4, your chances of getting your dream signing Bellingham are absolutely significantly reduced. So you know what? Go ahead, Liverpool. Celebrate your 7-Up trophy. But where's your top 4 qualification? Where's your Jude Bellingham signing? Because I for one, can't see it. I can't see it happening whatsoever. I want to just quickly make sure there's news about Mitoma to United. There's news that Harry Kane is 100 million. There is a bit of transfer news going on at the moment, but it's nothing worth, I think, talking about. The real positive news is Eriksen is back after the international break, which is absolutely fantastic as well. Sancho hopefully will have a nice break and be back to his best. I do think Sancho's going to mould in and be well. Hopefully Bruno hopefully the new Portuguese manager just doesn't play Bruno. I know Bruno will want to play and he's the guy who wants to play every game, but I do really hope that the new Portuguese manager goes, you know what, Bruno Fernandes, you played way too much football, sit on the fucking bench. That was a shit action, wasn't it? That was an absolute shit action. But I hope the new Portuguese manager does drop Bruno. I don't think Leicester will go down. I don't think Leicester will go down, but this is the thing. I generally don't think Leicester are going to go down. Yet when I put the prediction of all the scores in, Leicester are rock bottom. Obviously, I'm not going to get all of them correct. This is just Alice's prediction because, with Arsenal only having one game a week and Man City having 2 games a week for the rest of the season, it's argued that Arsenal will probably finish above City and win the league. However, Manchester City have an easier fixture list than Arsenal, and I think Man City will beat Arsenal in that one-off game as well. Liverpool beat United, but they win FO, and Liverpool getting punished for pinching our transfer targets. You know what? Liverpool are celebrating signing Gakpo and Nunes. But blessing in disguise, baby. Blessing in disguise. Because you know what? We might end up with Osimhen in the summer. And you know what? Rashford, Sancho, Osimhen, don't mess with us as well. Sancho better than Grealish, common knowledge. I generally still to this day believe Sancho is clear of Grealish. And I can't believe that Sancho gets way more stick than Grealish. Who, by the way, Grealish is 5 years older than Sancho, cost 25. Grealish cost 25 million more pound than Sancho, is 5 years older than Sancho, and had 2 years of experience in the Premier League. Despite apparently Grealish being the biggest stopper, not Sancho. Makes no sense. Sancho's 22. Sancho's got a freaking time. Or 23. 22, 23, I think, isn't he, as well? And anyone for 4th place as long as it's not Liverpool. Exactly. I do think United will finish in the top 4. People say with no Casemiro we could drop points, la-di-la-di-la. And I get that we could drop points. However, I also think, we will drop points. Yes. We might struggle. Yes. It might be a rough end to the season. Yes. But I think we've got a 7-point kind of advantage on 5th place. And you've got to remember that Liverpool are inconsistent. Newcastle are dropping off. Spurs are inconsistent. So although United might drop points, Spurs will probably drop points because they're not that good. So we probably should get top 4s as well. And imagine if Brighton are in the Champions League. That would be madness. But you got to root for Brighton. They play fantastic stuff as well. Absolutely fantastic. And I call them Brighton Munich because they play great football. I mean, you've got to love watching Brighton play. I think Brighton are that team, if they do finish in the Champions League spot, if they do well, I think everyone will just be happy for them because you're like, you know what? Fair play to Brighton. Fair fucking play. They play nice football. They're a nice team, etc., etc. Grealish price tag is generally forgotten by folks as well. I want to talk about a player that Manchester United have been linked to. If my laptop loads my screen. So Mitoma, he's obviously this kind of... Oh, actually, no. Let me show you this. So he's obviously a bit of information here. He's 25. For some reason, I thought he was like 22, but he's 25. And obviously, Japanese player at Brighton. And I'll be honest, this guy has been absolutely fantastic. I wasn't familiar with who he is, but as of recently been fantastic. And United have been linked with him, and I do think he looks like a good player. Now, I want to show you his statistics here. He's mostly played as a left wing / a left mid, so I don't think it's a big priority for United because we've got Marcus Rashford. But he's looked really good this season. Obviously, 9 goals and 6 assists. So he's got decent stats, nothing crazy. But Mitoma's one of those guys, though, although his stats aren't crazy, when you watch him play, he just looks so nice. He just looks so nice, so good. He is a left winger, so not obviously the ideal position for us, but it's someone that United are reportedly looking at. And someone that I wouldn't mind United signing, but I don't think is a priority. However, I do think he's a good player as well. Continuing on with the news, we want to just get into the news. We want to kind of round up the news in this video, etc. Basically, we're going to For You here. The news kind of coming out, just making sure nothing's there, is that Harry Kane will force a move away from Spurs this summer after yet another trophyless season. He's had enough. The news coming out today is that from the Mirror that Kane has had enough and he's ready to force out a move. And I do think, although I think Victor Osimhen is my first choice, I think Kane is the striker we end up with. Kane seems to be Harry Kane. Kane seems to be Ten Hag's first choice target. Kane seems to want to leave Spurs, and there's been a price tag set on Kane that United might be able to get lower. The only thing potentially stopping Kane to United is the Glazers and Daniel Levy. If we get Qatar, and if Kane is Ten Hag's first choice under Osimhen, and if this is true that Kane has had enough of Spurs and will be forcing a move, United get Kane unless Daniel Levy fucks about. And Daniel Levy won't want to risk losing Kane for nothing next season. So, yeah. And look, whether you like Kane or not, he gets 25 goals a season easily. It's a very Van Persie move. Kane would be our Van Persie. I really do. I think, we still need midfielders to just take us up a level. But you know how Robin Van Persie kind of won us the league? I think we're at a position where we have this good squad, but we don't have a striker. And I think Robin Van Persie was trophyless at Arsenal, realistically. Robin Van Persie had never won the Premier League. Robin Van Persie was nearing the end of his Arsenal career, but he was still a top player with a few years left in him. And you know what? As angry as Arsenal fans were, he moved to United. And what did he do? He won the league for United. Not saying that we're going to win the league next season, but I think if you add two quality midfielders, someone else in the defence for a little bit more depth, and Harry Kane with Ten Hag, I think United are in title race. And Harry Kane could be that guy who scores that goal that gets United over the edge and wins the league. You never know. I mean, Kane, Sancho, Rashford, Brexit, proper English front three. Top Reds will be loving it. But no, it would be a really good front three. I do really like Kane, and I do think that he could take United far, although Osimhen is my first choice. But anyway, we've been live for nearly an hour, so I'm going to wrap up the live stream here. So please do smash that like button if you have not already. And of course, subscribe down below to As Talk Football if you're new. We talk about the takeover, sort of. I say like minute 8 to about minute 20 of this video was talking about the takeover. Then we had 20 minutes doing our league predictions. Then we've ended up off with this Kane stuff, and we'll talk about Kane in tomorrow's video. So smash a like, smash a subscribe. By the way, guys, I'll be back with a morning video around 11 a.m. UK time tomorrow, where we'll get more into the transfer news. What I'm doing on the channel is my live streams and more chit chats with you guys, kind of going over the general news. So obviously this chit chat live stream with you guys is just kind of going over the general news on Kane, etc., etc. But in my video tomorrow morning, I will literally be 10-minute video. This is the transfer news. This is the news, etc., etc., etc. And we will talk about Harry Kane in more detail in tomorrow's video. Someone's just asked me about Mason Mount. I don't see it happening, but you never know. It depends on the price. Smash a like, smash a subscribe. See you next time, and bye.